Hi, Prosperity Team. This is Dr. Money coming to you from the Prosperity Corner of the universe, where silliness is sacred and nobody's perfect. I am your POP, your Professor of Prosperity, and I'm here so that all of our lives can pop with prosperity. I am very happy today to bring to you a guest who has been a virtual friend of mine for many years. She came to my center in the late 80s when she was promoting a book that she had written. She's about to put out another book. Her passion is empowering women, and she is an expert coach, a real creator, very innovative, and she's a visionary, a real visionary. And I'm glad to call her one of my friends. And I say virtual friends because the only time we've been together was at one event back in 1988, 89, something like that. But I am so glad that she's with me. I want to introduce to you a wonderful woman in Lesley Michaels. Welcome, Lesley.
Hi, Anne. Thank you for having me here today.
Well, we've worked together at other times, and I really always enjoy talking with you and interviewing you because you have so many wonderful things to say, not just to women, but really to everyone. And I'd like to ask you a little bit about the ebb and flow of prosperity, or it could be abundance or money, if you could speak to us about that today.
I would love to. And I love playing in the ebb and the flow. One thing I've noticed over the years is that people, not just women, but people can get a little panicky when it's not flowing quite as strongly. But that's just nature. Consider the tide. If you're by the ocean, or if you've ever been by the ocean, the tide doesn't always roll in. There is an ebb and there is a flow, and there is fall and there is spring. Well, it's the same with our internal energy, our internal balance, and the way our energy flows. I don't know about you, but I get a lot more sleepy in the wintertime. And then when the energy starts moving, we forget all about those worries. We go about having a good time. And then there's a tendency, when things slow down, to have a little panic moment. I've seen this in so many people. Oh my gosh, what did I do wrong? Worst question ever. You didn't do anything wrong. You're just moving with the natural flow of life. I had the most interesting experience with my own ebb and flow during COVID. The whole world, the entire planet, is closing down. Mom sent us to our rooms to consider how we'd been behaving. And we got to stay there for about 18 months. We're just now starting to peek our nose out the windows. And there was all this consciousness of lack and loss and isolation. That was the most abundantly creative, abundantly productive, abundantly inspiring year that I can ever remember having. Well, you're just lucky, Lesley. Oh no, I made a choice. At the very beginning of COVID, I have many scientist friends, and I'd spoken with them, and so I knew it was going to be a long walk. So I sat down with myself and I decided, don't know when, but at the other end of this trail, wherever it comes and whenever it comes, how would you like to feel? What would you like to see when you look in the mirror, Lesley? And I wrote this entire script. And then I would read it every morning. And that was my getting up and getting ready for the day. And I didn't plan anything specifically in order to fulfill that list. I just had it in my consciousness. And then every day I would go about creating whatever was on my plate that day. It was amazing the amount of creativity, the amount of content I created, the number of people I was able to connect with on Zoom and various different platforms. I had the most fun year during the year of COVID of any year I can remember for the longest time. So there was an abundance of fun, an abundance of happiness. And it all started when I sat down with myself and said, how would you like this to look? What do you want to see when you look in the mirror at the end?
Well, that is a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I hadn't thought of it in terms of ebb and flow due to COVID, but oh my gosh, yes, that's right in our face. And so many people are still facing that ebb, and we send our best to them. And the consciousness that you've chosen and the way that you chose to look at that is amazing. And we always, as you said, we always have that choice. We can always choose to look through the abundant lens of consciousness because it's always there, but it is a choice that we must make because so many of us are really addicted to lack. It's a habit.
It's the truth.
It's a habit.
Yes.
In our culture, we have been taught to be worried and upset about money and to look for the doom and gloom that is probably almost immediately coming over the mountain. Right. And, even if it did come, we still are at choice.
Mm-hmm.
That, all of the stuff that we've studied for years and we've tried to implement in our daily lives, those things we really get to work out with those things when we have something big like COVID come, and the way that you chose to do that is very powerful. And of course, we can still use that same principle of choosing to see everything in an abundant light post-COVID.
Right. And what I believe, Anne, that one of the keys was that I didn't consciously choose abundance in terms of the word abundance. I didn't say what kind of abundance am I going to create, which I have done that many times and sometimes successfully and a few times not. But in this case, I wasn't looking at it in terms of creating abundance per se. Was just looking at it from the perspective of who did I want to see in the mirror. So I was really coming at it from a place of more fulfillment and happiness. Well, what are the greatest magnets for every kind of abundance? Fulfillment and happiness.
Which is then flow.
That's right.
The energy flowing. And so through your happiness, through your expectation, then you allowed flow to continue rather than cut it off, rather than contract this. And yes, I have I think I did a video recently, and that is about the many forms that abundance can take. And if we if we're not experiencing abundance in one form, that we should look toward the field that is exhibiting abundance, because there's always plenty of places where it's showing up in our lives. We tend to look at abundance and prosperity as money. And for some people, they really do have to look at that, because if the person does not have enough money to pay their bills, then they're not in the same place that those of us who have the money to pay our bills and to maybe have to go through a crisis like this. We're very, very fortunate to be able to look and define prosperity in ways that don't include money, because we've got that covered for the moment.
Right.
And so I do appreciate the people who say, how am I going to pay my bills? But yet there are many people that I have talked with and I've heard of that in some way have been able to make it, and they've used these same kinds of principles, and they've not only been able to attract happiness and well-being, but they've also been able to attract the money to pay their bills. So we always want to include that
Yes.
and I do like the idea of somewhat money proofing ourselves. And that is that if the money's going out, we have the same sense of consciousness, happiness, and sense of well-being as we have when money is coming in.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to be freak out about money, because whether it's coming in or going out, freaking out, just what does it do?
Locks it down.
You don't have it anymore. You just cuts it off.
That's it.
Cuts it off and flow. Well, this has really been fascinating. Thank you so much. I hope maybe you'll join me sometimes in the future again, and we'll talk about something else. Now, for you,
I'd love to.
Yes,
I'd love
please.
to. Thank you.
Yes. So for you in the prosperity audience, I want to tell you one more thing, and that is that I'm Dr. Money. And I want you to remember one more thing for sure, and that is that I love you. And you got a word for them, Lesley?
I am so happy to be able to communicate with you today. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to communicate with you.
All right.